I'm Christina Onnested. The House panel investigating the deadly January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol has firmly laid blame on Donald Trump for conspiring to overturn the election results and cause an insurrection. In Thursday's prime-time hearing, lawmakers said the siege was no accident, but an attempted coup. Here's Mississippi Democrat Benny Thompson and Wyoming Republican Liz Cheney.
January 6th was the culmination of an attempted coup. The violence was no accident. It represented Trump's last stand, most desperate chance to halt the transfer of power.
President Trump summoned the mob, assembled the mob, and lit the flame of this attack. The sacred obligation to defend this peaceful transfer of power has been honored by every American president, except one.
The committee also detailed plots they say were to commit seditious conspiracy to overthrow the government by Trump's followers, like the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. This was fomented by the big lie that the election was stolen from Trump, despite never-before-seen testimony from Trump's then-Attorney General William Barr and other aides who say they informed Trump there was no fraud in his electoral loss. Here's Barr.
I made it clear I did not agree with the idea of saying the election was stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was bullshit.
But despite being told shortly after his electoral loss in November 2020, Trump continued to promulgate the big lie. Live testimony included a police officer who was attacked unconscious in the riot and a documentary filmmaker tracking the extremist Proud Boys leading the assault. Video of the Capitol insurrection showed an injured officer who slipped in blood and spoke of carnage as a huge violent mob stormed the Capitol. Video also showed former President Donald Trump's family members acknowledging his lies that drove his supporters to act. House Democrats passed a national red flag law Thursday that would allow law enforcement to seize the guns of people deemed a threat to themselves or others. 19 states and the District of Columbia already have red flag laws in place. Democrat Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas says red flag laws work.
Indiana passed it in 2005, and in years since, the state's firearm suicide rate is going down 7.5%. They work. A little boy, 16 years old, in New York County, was getting ready to shoot up his students, had shotguns at home. An order was put forward, and he admitted that not having the guns in the home is helpful, and the order helped him.
5 Republicans joined Democrats in passing the legislation. One Democrat, Jaron Golden of Maine, voted no. House Republicans argue the bill would violate the constitutional right to due process. It's still unlikely to garner enough support in the Senate, where Republicans are likely to mount a filibuster. Authorities say an employee opened fire at a manufacturing business in western Maryland Thursday, leaving 3 co-workers dead and 1 critically injured before the suspect and a state trooper were wounded in a shootout. Both are being treated for their wounds. According to the Gun Violence Archives, there's been 253 mass shootings in the U.S. this year. Some 450 marches are planned across the country, including at the nation's capital and around the world this weekend, urging gun control measures in the U.S. A Ukrainian presidential advisor says up to 200 soldiers are being killed every day in Russia's military onslaught and urged more heavy weaponry to fight Russia. Mikhailo Podolyak told the BBC that only more advanced Western weaponry will turn back the Russian offensive, reduce the casualties, and force Moscow to the negotiating table. Russia's siege on the eastern Ukrainian Donbass region continues, with a Ukrainian governor saying forces are fighting for every house and every street. The British government, meanwhile, said it's negotiating with Russia over what the UK is calling a sham trial of 2 Britons and a Moroccan who were sentenced to death for fighting against Russian forces in Ukraine Thursday. President Joe Biden and other Western Hemisphere leaders at the Summit of the Americas are set to announce what's being billed as a roadmap for countries to host large numbers of migrants and refugees. A set of principles to be announced today includes legal pathways to enter countries, aid to communities most affected by migration, humane border management, and coordinated emergency responses. The Los Angeles Declaration may be the biggest achievement of the summit, which was undercut by differences over Biden's invitation list. Leaders of Mexico and Central American countries sent top diplomats instead after the U.S. excluded Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. I'm Christina Onnested reporting for Pacifica Radio.